Well, hello to all of you who are part of the Gifting Friends group. And that's a group of apparently at this point around 25 people globally engaged in the process of exchanging support gradually with each other over a period of time. Now, in order to facilitate the greatest success in this program, it is best if you start in the southern hemisphere, if you engage in the experience at the equinox at the first month of autumn, which is around the 20th, 21st of this month of March, you start by entering in the two-girl month. Now, most of you have a knowledge about what the two-girl month is, but I'm going to go through explaining a bit more about the two-girl feeling month and why this particular entry point governs the entire process of successfully utilizing this sequence. Now, this sequence happens to be the sequence of 1 year. To explain the graphic, anytime the graphic is going downward, it's feminine. So in this case, 2-girl, 4-girl, 6-girl, going downward is feminine, and then going upward again is masculine. 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6, and then again going down 1, 3, 5, and that would lead right into 2 again. Later on, this becomes a figure 8. Now, this process of entering into this line, which to me is a line of great progress, a line of alignment. I even call it the divine love path. This is the line we ultimately want to travel. The ability to be able to get there consistently requires the consciousness to own one's own feelings, the full responsibility to feel one's existence, and we'll describe that in many different terms. Entering in and gathering the uses of the first month of autumn, because each month has a significant feeling that corresponds with each one of these places. And yes, this pattern is holographic. By that I mean the same sequence happens in a day. Process of a year, all the 4 seasons, is the same thing as sunset, 2 hours, going into the beginning of the night, basically at 4-girl, which is 8 to 10, sunset being 6 to 8, 8 to 10, which is the transition from feelings going into the spirit world, so that the sequence of 8 p.m. going to 10 p.m., this is the 6-girl 2-hour segment. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's 6 to 8, 8 to 10, 10 to 12. At 12 midnight, the increase starts. The increase of 1 boy, 3 boy, 5, and the 5 boy segment is just before sunrise. That 5 boy segment is also the individualization of your authentic self. Sunrise begins at the cusp of these two. Now, the same thing that's sunrise is also the equinox. In the northern hemisphere, we're entering from the last month of winter, 3 months in a row, into the springtime and the first month of spring. Then we're going into, in the northern hemisphere, this ascending cycle, whereas the southern hemisphere, sorry to be so confusing, you're just going to go into that beginning. You're starting the long cycle of 6 months in the mother's family. Now, the feminine or the mother's family primarily determines and regulates the outcome of the masculine. So this is where we're going to go month by month, and at times hour by hour, should you wish to practice that. We'll explain it more as we go along. Here, let me give you another perspective so you have another feeling for it. I like to occasionally describe it like this. Sometimes it's just easier to see it in a linear flow. Different perspective. That's all this is a linear flow that gives you the ability to understand that each one of these colors is a different month of the year. Each one of these colors is a different 2-hour segment. But also each color is a gland, an organ, a body system, a grandparent, and so on and so on and so on. All of these are significant. The entry into the ability, if you will, to put the train on the track, if you get the beginning of it accurately determined, it increases the likelihood of long-term success. So to enter into this pathway starts with the specific feeling that we call in RAYID speak to girl, or the capacity to feel one's own feelings. Now I'm going to give you another graphic that's a little bit more mystical, but may give you a better feeling of it. I said it was slightly more mystical, so this is what it actually feels like. Over here in the beginning, we would describe this as the pristine silence of the divine feminine. This first edge here is where you incarnate into matter as a fetus, meaning that you are conceived here and you enter into this encapsulation, and this encapsulation of you also has with it all of the unresolved issues given to you genetically by your family tree and your parents emotionally as you arrived. This is the beginning of the process. For the maximum ability to change where we're going, the orientation will keep coming back to this position. Now, this other position out here, there is no earthly way to describe it other than saying it is the pristine silence, or it is the lake that's never had a ripple. So that is your original pristine self, soul, if you want to use that term for now, and then you merged into matter and took on all of the genetic issues given to you through the process of the genome and the epigenome. You came in. So part of this process is the sincere desire to want to feel the original you incarnating, so that eventually you can distinguish the difference between the authentic original you and that part of you that you know as yourself now, which is a composite of your mother and father's genetic memory, your social conduct, your education, your personal choices. That's why this is so significant. Now, in this model, this is a model of many parts. This is also what's called the piece of the evening. That's why the first 2 hours of the evening corresponds with the ability to be able to access the softening of your capacity to feel. The next 2 hours of the evening, if you look behind me, this is similar to the original pattern, but this is the four-girl void, or the darkness, many different adjectives for this part, but this is typically the place where we go from being vertical during the day to horizontal as we step from the material world at sleep into the light of the spiritual world. So this is a sequence in RAYID speak. 2 girl, 4 girl, 6 girl. These 3 are the 3 months of autumn. That's why that very first month, we keep going back to it. So for a month, we engage in the study and the feeling of 2 girl. And then you'll find that there's different parts inside of it. So for the first 2 weeks of the month of autumn, you focus primarily on self, who I am, what I feel about me. Nothing else, not your parents, not your kids, not the environment, not your career. This is orienting your experience of the opportunity to feel one's self in a feeling way. That's primarily in the first 2 weeks of that month. The second 2 weeks of the first month of autumn is where you actually begin relating to others. So my self-feeling, how do I feel about relating to others? Now you'll find that each one of these has many different skills related to it. I call them skill sets. One of the skill sets of this location is the creative ability to distinguish yourself from other people. It is you being sovereign or capable of being yourself. Now, part of that experience is when you engage in the experience of others, there's a skill set here that you're familiar with called empathy. Empathy would be defined as the ability to feel the feelings of others. They have a discrete feeling. You have a discrete feeling. This is the ability to feel other people. A very significant first step that engages your opportunity to distinguish yourself from somebody else. Yes, you would think of empathy as the ability to feel others outside you. But in this process, the first step of this is to put the empathy inside you. And you might wonder why you would want to put empathy, the ability to feel others, inside you using that 2 girl sensitivity, because you want to feel those parts of what you acquired from other people. Yes, your parents and the connection to your grandparents and great-grandparents. You need the empathy to determine what's yours and what's theirs. Without this developed skill set, it's very hard to determine what feelings are actually yours versus somebody else. Now, in the process of doing this, the other 2 are also engaged. Well, let me explain how. Because the desire to want to feel yourself automatically engages the 4 girl function of change or cleaning or letting go. So as you start to engage the sincere desire to feel yourself and to distinguish yourself and to discern yourself from other people's feelings inside you, the 4 girl function gives you the ability to change it. By that, you'll learn that you can transform some of it using 4, because that's metamorphosis. You can release some. You can appreciate others. You can receive some. You can let go of others. The 4 girl function is a metamorphosis change, and we'll get into during that month all the different skill sets inside the 4. But the moment you make the sincere desire to want to grow and to feel with empathy the feelings inside you, it's going to give you the opportunity to change it. You don't have to understand it, but that's how it works. Then the last part, the 6 girl part, is the light, or where you go when you step out of your body at night. You leave your physical body in the bed, you know that, and then you leave to go into the spirit world to continue your progression or learning, or your habits if you want. But we're going to say you're going to do the positive side, that you're going to seek help from the spirit world, that is your current orientation of belief system, faith, spirit world, divine, religion, whatever you want. You ask for help to change and discover what's inside you. You feel, you engage the change, you ask for help. That's a lot to discover. All 3 of these operate together as a single unit, but you will define them as individual so that you can discover the skill sets inside of them and then link them to the next one, which is quite automatic, because this is the peace of the evening. This is bedtime, which is stepping out of the material, going into the spiritual. This is the spiritual, which will inevitably bring you an increase of inspiration and truth back to the discovery process. This is an ongoing loop tape if you desire to increase this. Now, the challenge is, the moment you have a sincere desire to step into yourself, anything that is presently a boundary or an impediment or a belief system, it's going to come into play. So if you start to expand this, it has boundaries or limitations to it that you will need to let go of, and you're going to need help to do it. So this is a process. Now, by the way, this is a 3-month-long process. In the first month, you're primarily focusing on the experience of self and the development of your empathy. The second month of the autumn, you're going to develop the 4 girl function of release and transformation. And then the last month of the autumn, before the increase of the day length, the 6 girl, you're going to be utilizing the understanding of what this means to help you fulfill this process. Now, from the very first moment that you step onto this, you must be prepared for what's going to arrive. I don't mean to concern you with it, but you're going to start moving into a rhythmic flow, almost like confetti, of a series of law of attraction events. Now, in order to process this, there's a single point inside of this that eventually you discover that you can occupy. But to occupy it, there is an important first step. And it sounds something like this. I want to be me. I want to be the actual me. And just me. I want to be the truth about me. I want help to do it. I'll be engaged in the transformation. But 100% of everything that comes to me is linked to a place inside me. Now, that's not an easy thing for most people to do. That no matter what you're experiencing, whether privately or publicly, whether locally or globally, in some way you are connected to all things that occur. 100% responsible, not only for the law of attraction coming to you, but the genuine resolution of the false belief systems or otherwise that would be a limitation. Personal responsibility. We call that 2. Here, let me give you another graphic. Maybe this one will be a little easier. Here's a more, if you will, practical thing to do. Now, I'm suggesting that the moment that you decide to step into the experience of increasing your capacity to feel, you're going to be met with the opposite. You're going to be met with like an electric fence of things wanting you to return to the old you as it was. These are boundaries. These are impediments. These are false belief systems. These are addictions and facades and personas, things we all know we have all the time. Now, these three balls, the blue ball, the pink, and the white, they're the same that you saw before. It's the 2-girl piece of the evening, the 4-girl experience of transformation or change, and the 6-girl experience of asking for divine or spiritual help. These three in sequence, they're going to be your acquired skill set to enable you to transform the feelings that you have inside of you more, if you will, fluidly or accurately than before. Now, this is the perspective that you can start with, meaning the heart, the gold heart's obvious, that from directly in front, you focus on your heart while you take the first ball, which is a little bit bigger than the heart. When it arrives there, that's the experience of the peace that has the pristine silence, the sincere desire to feel, and the empathy. Then you pull that one, bring it to, with intention, toward your heart. If you want to, focus on the pericardium, the skin of the heart, if you want. Then with it automatically comes the next part, which is the transformation of the 4-girl, or the ability to be able to have a metamorphosis, to change, to receive. Then behind that is the 6-girl, which is the divine guidance or help to enable you to achieve that result at the heart. Whew. Yes, I know that's a lot. Do your best to distinguish these three parts. This is a very long-term instrument that you'll need for the entire 1-year or 3-year program. To feel will constantly be increasing. Your ability to change will constantly be increasing. Your access to the spirit world through faith will ideally continuously be increasing. I'm suggesting that when you have a law of attraction moment, that you do it directly, and I even like to use my own hands to softly bring in the peace and the feeling, divine feminine, empathy, desire to feel, change. I sincerely want to change, understand. And sometimes you'll discover when we do this, there'll be things that you let go of because they're not yours. Other things you'll discover they are yours, but you can transform them. And even others, they're frozen memories in your childhood, put there by someone else that you can let go of, but you don't want to release it. You want to liberate it to be used in the development of your glands and organs and body systems. We'll distinguish the differences in these skill sets. A lot to consider. But let me give you just a little bit more mind-boggling stuff for a moment. This is designed to help you get started. Not easy to see, but this is a 12-month progression. So if you look at the blue at the bottom, for 12 months, we're going to continue to do the 2-girl link to the pristine original self. 12 months of the continuous feeling of this as you go through different cycles. While doing this, you're going to go through the other ones, and each of them will go through this as well. This is why by the time you get to the 5-girl month, which this is 3-girl and this is 1-girl, you'll see the process of how this works, that you still need ideally an opportunity to do your 5-girl also for 12 months. So this is why we build each one of these 3-month cycles produces a memory. Then when you add to it the beginning of the fluidity of the next 3 months, it produces a longer and more effective memory. By the time you get through 4 seasons of number 1 or number 2 girl, the first step, you get the opportunity to feel it in a new way. Yes, that sounds like a lot, but before I let you go, let me just give you maybe another graphic. Hang on. Take a moment just to appreciate that. This is a symbol of a lake that has no ripples. This is an earthly lake. This is a symbol for 2-girl and sunset. So we are beginning the process at sunset because that brings the individualization of the opportunity to feel originating from the divine, pristine silence as self. Now, from this experience in the peace of the evening, it goes into the 4-girl experience at bedtime, that goes into the 6-girl experience into the late night before midnight. And you know what happens at midnight? Well, another 6 hours of progressive change that we haven't got to yet, but you'll know what it looks like because it would look something like so many possibilities of what graphic to give you. It makes it easy. This is, again, the entire year. This is the entire day. Sunset, 2 hours. Bedtime, 2-hour cycle. Just before midnight, 2-hour cycle. Midnight begins the 1-boy time of humility and inspiration between 12 and 2. Between 2 and 4, the 3-boy social development hour. And then the 5-boy 2-hour functions just before sunrise, 10 in the morning, 8 in the morning to 10, 10 to 12, 1-girl starting at midday, 3 and 5. Yeah, I know this is a lot. I really do. I'm just encouraging you, those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, take advantage. Starting now, develop the 5-boy desire to go forward, or in the Southern Hemisphere, the 5-girl consolidation of all of the forces on Earth, because 5-girl is the unity of all living things. Gather the forces of that, because you're going to put them all inside a single drop of water called you. Go ahead, develop that desire to feel, anticipate the opportunity to become you. Now, when you do that, you're going to be far more sensitive to the sending and receiving of these feelings from other people in the global friends or gifting friends groups. Later on, yes, we're going to have a global gratitude, which is going through each one of the ancestors of this, the 12 ancestors in your family tree, and other programs like that. But it helps so much if you step into the autumn on that first month with a sincere desire to feel and want to grow. I'm going to come back and we'll give you at least 2 or 3 prompts a week of some things to consider, some images, some feelings, maybe even some musical pieces to help you go through the entry of that first month. And if you get started in that first month, everything is much easier all the way through. That's it for now. Do your best to practice this if you can. Talk to you soon.